Before empires learned how to conquer, the Persians had already mastered it. From psychological warfare to devastating population control, the Achaemenid Empire didn't just rule, it rewrote the rules of dominance. These are 5 of the most ruthless tactics the Persian Empire used to crush enemies and shape history. Which one do you think was the most brutal? When diplomacy failed, the Persian Empire didn't just crush resistance, they made an example of it. After conquering rebellious cities like Miletus or Babylon, they didn't simply punish leaders. They flattened temples, tore down city walls, and executed or enslaved tens of thousands. But this wasn't senseless brutality, it was messaging. To everyone watching, the message was clear: resist, and this will be you. This psychological warfare stretched beyond the battlefield. Persian kings would parade defeated enemies in chains, forcing rival rulers to watch their comrades suffer. And it worked. Many cities surrendered without a fight, terrified by the memory of Persian wrath. The empire didn't have to conquer everyone. It just had to make a few brutal examples loud enough for the rest to fall in line. Do you think fear is a fair price for peace, or a shortcut to tyranny? Comment your thoughts and hit like. The Persian Empire didn't need to fight every war. Sometimes they just let others destroy each other. Their genius lay in exploiting tribal tensions, city rivalries, and religious divides. In Ionia, they backed local tyrants who ruled in Persia's name, turning Greeks against Greeks. In Egypt, they played native elites against foreign mercenaries. And in Babylon, they manipulated priesthoods to keep would-be rebels distracted and divided. When rebellions flared, the Persians didn't crush them with armies right away. They sent bribes, spies, and false promises, splitting alliances from within. By the time troops arrived, their enemies were too fractured to resist. This was more than clever politics. It was empire by subtle sabotage, and it worked for over 200 years. Could an empire built on division ever truly be stable, or was collapse always waiting in the shadows? Drop your take in the comments, and don't forget, the Persian kings ruled an empire stretching over 3,000 miles. So how did they know what was happening everywhere? They had spies, lots of them. Called the king's eyes and ears, these agents reported directly to the great king. Governors, generals, even royal family members never knew if they were being watched. They traveled in disguise. They investigated corruption, crushed dissent, and sniffed out treason long before it took root. One satrap who disobeyed orders executed the same week, thanks to a single report from the eyes. They even monitored the king's army commanders, ensuring no one became too powerful. This wasn't justice, it was control through fear. And it helped hold the empire together far longer than brute force ever could. What would it be like living in a world where spies were always watching? Let me know in the comments. When we think of ancient empires, we often picture glory, conquest, and grand cities. But the Persian Empire had another, far colder tool in its arsenal: mass deportation. Under kings like Darius and Xerxes, entire populations were uprooted and relocated, not for punishment, but for control. Rebellious tribes, skilled workers, even whole cities were picked up and dropped into unfamiliar lands. The goal: break local loyalties, remove the roots of resistance. Imagine waking up one day, only to be marched hundreds of miles to serve a new master in a foreign tongue. But this wasn't chaos. It was strategic. These displaced communities were scattered across the empire, rebuilding infrastructure, boosting economies, and unknowingly binding themselves to Persian rule. It was control disguised as opportunity. What would you have done in their place? Fight, flee, or adapt? Drop your answer in the comments. Forget what you think you know about Persian armies. They didn't just charge into battle, they engineered psychological warfare. When Persia invaded, it wasn't just soldiers that arrived. It was elephants, siege towers, cavalry stretching for miles, and gold. Lots of gold. Before a fight even began, Persian envoys would approach enemy leaders with one simple offer: submit and be rewarded, resist and be erased. They absorbed whole cities without drawing a sword, offering luxury, autonomy, and a place in the empire's elite. But if you said no, their retribution was terrifying. Villages burned, nobles impaled. The message was clear: Persia conquers not just the body, but the will. No wonder entire kingdoms surrendered before the first arrow flew. Which tactic do you think was most effective, bribery or fear? Drop your take below. The Persian Empire didn't need to scream to show its power. It whispered, manipulated, and moved entire peoples like pawns. Which tactic shocked you the most? Comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more ruthless history every week.